Okay, guys, today, after the first step of the valuation discovery exercise, we're now going to go through the second part of that exercise. And hopefully, you did take some time and really hone in on what those values were. I know that there were a series of questions that you go through that ask you specifically to list three things. You want to make sure that you do those things very, very detailed, very specific. But then also at the same time, you're not over analyzing your answer. So your answers really shouldn't be like 3 paragraphs long. You just want to go with the first thing that pops into your mind when those questions pop up. Something really interesting that you want to ask yourself, is money on there? Did money pop up at all in your 3 highest values? For most people, money doesn't pop up, which answers the question as to why a lot of times people don't make more money or aren't making additional money because they don't value money. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, but it just lets you know that what you value is what you keep close to you, is what you keep organized. So you really want to look at what your highest values are and what are the things that keep showing up over and over again in your answers. These are things that are real and authentic to you, who you are. And we want to get to a point where we just really truthfully stop judging ourselves, stop feeling guilty, stop feeling ashamed, stop resenting for who we are as people. And when we allow ourselves that space to do that, and we are now grateful for who we are and what we value, that is when income actually shows up. That is actually when money shows up. Money shows up when you just live your authentic life and accept yourself for who you are. That's when opportunities open up to you because you're being honest with really who you are. So in that valuation discovery exercise, we want to look at what shows up the most. We really want to figure out what your 3 highest values are. So for most individuals, as they go through that exercise, they're going to see certain things that are constantly repeating. For a lot of people, that could be work. It could be family. It could be spirituality. It could be, what is my life's purpose, or basically having an impact in the world. Whatever they are, we want to essentially figure out what those highest values are. So while you are in that space, looking at that form, looking at your answers, you want to determine what shows up the most. So with this second step, we're going to look at what are my 3 highest values. So for most people, again, work shows up a lot. So we want to really look at how many times does work show up. And for most people, work shows up a lot, especially if they have responsibilities. So it looks like in this example that work would likely be that individual's number 1 value. We then want to look at what the second highest value would be. And again, for a lot of people, if they have children or they, take care of their family or whatever the case may be, then a family may show up. So we want to go through each of our answers and really hone in and see, again, what those top 3 highest values are. And then the second step after we've determined, what our top 3, values are, is that we want to then figure out what those values mean to us. What do those values mean? And so in this example, we're going to look at the example for an individual that has family as their highest value. And so what we want to do is, once we determine what those top 3 values are, is we want to figure out what the primary, secondary, and tertiary reasons are behind that value. So in this example, again, this individual's number 1 is family. And so we're going to figure out, what does family mean? So in this example, you're going to ask yourself, what does family mean to me? And you want to go with the first thought that pops into your head. And for this person, family, they said that supporting them, supporting my family, being a provider, that is what, that's what family means to me. And so then we want to then get to the secondary reason behind why family is the number one value. And we want to ask ourselves, well, what does supporting my family mean? And in this example, this person determines that being loving is what supporting their family means. Okay, great. Then we want to find out what the tertiary reason is behind that value. So we want to ask ourselves, what does being loving mean? And in this example, that person says being loving means that that is the ultimate job of a parent. So again, once we determine what our highest values are, we're going to do this exercise for each of our top 3 highest values, because we want to figure out what exactly does that mean to me. Once I determine what work is, or once I determine that work is in my highest values, what does work mean to me? Why is it in my highest values? And you're going to figure out and learn some things about yourself in that process. So again, with that value discovery exercise, you then want to ask yourself, what goals did I set in 2022? And were these my goals that I put together, or were these goals that were assigned to me? And if they were assigned, then you want to ask yourself, well, why did I set them again? And whether or not they match my values. Because ultimately, we're only going to do what we value. We're only going to stay organized in what we value. And again, this brings up the question of, well, Tanisha, how do I make more money if it's not in my highest values? And that will lead us to our next exercise, which will be in a separate video, which discovers and discusses a mission. So stay tuned for that separate video, but I hope that this exercise was definitely impactful for you. And if you do have questions, please pop them in the Telegram or reach out to us individually.